Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and today I'm going to be taking a look at one of my favourite ships in World of Warships. This is the USS Atlanta. It's a Tier 7 premium American cruiser. Since this is a premium ship, it is going to cost you real money, but you don't buy it direct from the World of Warships premium gift shop. This is one of the ships that's only available for purchase within the game from the tech tree for gold that you have bought from the World of Warships premium gift shop. The Atlanta costs 9,000 gold. If after a result of this video you decide, I like the look of this ship, I'm going to have to buy me one of those, and you go to the premium gift shop to buy some gold, you're going to be faced with a bit of a decision, because the Atlanta costs 9,000 and the only amounts of gold currently available for purchase, at least on the EU server, are 14,500, 8,250 and 2,500. So whatever you do, you're going to end up with more gold than you need. But you can always use that to convert all of the free experience that you're going to be earning on this premium Tier 7 cruiser. So, Uncle Jingles, tell us about the Atlanta. Oh, well, since you asked so nicely. The Atlantas were a class of 8 fast, light scout cruisers developed for the US Navy during World War II. The lead ship of the class, the USS Atlanta, was launched in 1941. As fast, light scout cruisers, they were very, very thinly armoured, but they did carry a pretty formidable array of firepower in her gun turrets. These ships mounted 16 5-inch guns. The lack of armour, however, was a bit of a problem in the surface combat role. In fact, of the 3 light cruisers that the US Navy lost during the entirety of the Second World War, 2 of them were Atlantas. The USS Atlanta herself, the lead ship of the class, and the USS Juneau, and more about the USS Juneau later. However, during the course of World War II, it was discovered that thanks to the dual-purpose armament, these 5-inch guns were equally good engaging surface or air targets, that the Atlantas turned out to be exceptionally good anti-air escort cruisers. The Atlantas were not big ships, and due to the fact that they carried batteries of 5-inch rather than 6-inch guns, 6-inch guns being normal cruiser armament and 5-inch guns being normal destroyer armament, there was debate in some circles as to whether or not these ships should have been designated cruisers at all. But while they weren't big ships, they were bigger than destroyers, and while they were lightly armoured compared to other light cruisers, they were much, much better armoured than destroyers, and while they might have had batteries of 5-inch guns rather than 6-inch guns, they did have 16 of them rather than the 5 or 6 that were usually mounted on destroyers, so the light cruiser designation stuck. So, aside from the relatively thin armour, was there anything particularly wrong with the Atlantas? Well, yes. Once the US Navy realised how good these ships were in the anti-aircraft escort role, they went ahead and piled even more dedicated anti-aircraft guns onto them. This, of course, made the ship very, very top-heavy and reduced its sea-keeping abilities. Also, funny story, the ship also had the embarrassing problem of having more firepower than it could effectively control. All of those 5-inch guns, all 16 of them, plus all of the extra anti-aircraft armament that was fitted to the ship, meant that there was just not enough space available on the superstructure to be able to mount enough gun directors to effectively control the fire of this bristling array of firepower. The ship quite literally had more firepower than it knew what to do with. How very typically American a problem. Sorry, America, you know we love you, really. So that in a nutshell is the Atlanta class of light cruisers in the US Navy. Did anything of note happen to any of the Atlantas during World War II? Yes. I mentioned the USS Juneau earlier. This was one of the 2 Atlanta class cruisers that were sunk during the Second World War, and the Juneau was famous for all the wrong reasons. The USS Juneau was sunk on the 13th of November 1942 during the naval battle of Guadalcanal. She was sunk by a torpedo fired from the Japanese submarine I-26. The I-26 had actually fired 2 torpedoes. They were intended for the USS San Francisco, but they both missed. One of them, unfortunately, struck the Juneau. She broke in 2 and sank within 20 seconds. Fearful of more attacks from the I-26 and wrongly assuming from the explosion that there were no survivors, USS Helena and USS San Francisco left the area without attempting to rescue any survivors. More than 100 sailors had actually survived the sinking, and they were left to fend for themselves in the open ocean for 8 days before rescue aircraft arrived. 5 of the crew of the Juneau were the Sullivan brothers. They had enlisted in the US Navy on January the 3rd, 1942 on the condition that they be allowed to serve together on the same ship. The Navy did actually have a policy of separating brothers, but it wasn't strictly enforced. George and Frank Sullivan had served in the Navy before, but their brothers hadn't. All 5 had been assigned to the USS Juneau. Of the 5 Sullivan brothers, Frank, Joe and Matt Sullivan died instantly when their ship was torpedoed. Al Sullivan drowned the next day, and George Sullivan survived for 4 or 5 days before suffering from delirium and dying as a result of salt water poisoning. For security reasons, the Navy didn't publicise the loss of the Juneau or any of the other ships lost in the battle, so as to not provide information to the Japanese. The brothers' parents actually learned of the deaths of all of their sons on January the 12th, 1943. That morning the boy's father Thomas was getting ready for work when 3 men in uniform, Lieutenant Commander, a doctor and a Chief Petty Officer, approached his front door. "I have some news for you about your boys," the Lieutenant Commander said. "Which one?" said Thomas. "I'm sorry," the officer replied. "All 5. As a direct result of the Sullivans' deaths and the deaths of 4 of the Borgstrom brothers within a few months of each other, 2 years later, the US War Department adopted the Sole Survivor Policy. The Sole Survivor Policy, or Department of Defense Directive 1315.15, is a set of regulations in the US military designed to protect members of a family from being drafted, or, if already enlisted into the military, from being sent on combat duty if they've already lost family members in military service. The US Navy named 2 destroyers, USS the Sullivans, to honour the brothers, the Sullivans, DD-537, and the Sullivans, DDG-68. The first USS the Sullivans was the first American Navy ship ever to be named after more than one person. The motto for both ships was, "We stick together." Al Sullivan's son actually served on board the first USS the Sullivans, and his grandmother christened the first ship. So, the Atlanta. What's good about it? What's bad about it? Should you get it? And if so, why? Well, as a light scout cruiser, this thing is quick. It has a top speed of 33 knots. The turning circle of 610 meters isn't particularly good, but it's not bad either. The real thing can actually turn very, very quickly at full speed. Got a photograph here of the Atlanta doing a high-speed 360-degree turn during her trials. The Atlanta is also unusual in that it's the only World War II designed American cruiser to be equipped with torpedoes. They're not particularly good torpedoes, they only have a 4.5 kilometer range, but at least it's got them. It can fire 4 from each side. On the downside, because the Atlanta is essentially just a very, very big and very well-armed destroyer, it does not have a lot of health. It only has 27,500 health. Now, when we come to compare that to, for example, the other Tier 7 American cruiser, the non-premium USS Pensacola, it has significantly more health. 34,300 health. The Pensacola can take more of a battering. It's able to soak up more damage, and that's going to be important when we come to look at the guns on the Atlanta. The guns on the Atlanta are the ship's biggest strength and its biggest weakness. Its biggest strength in that it's got 16 of them, 16 5-inch guns. That's more, by the way, than the Tier 3 powerhouse cruiser, the USS St. Louis, which is infamous for the amount of guns it packs on board. But the problem with the guns is that they are destroyer guns. They're 127mm 5-inch guns. They're the same guns that you get on this, the USS Nicholas, the Tier 5 destroyer. Now, the guns on the Nicholas are great, but the Nicholas is just a Tier 5 destroyer. It's not a Tier 7 cruiser. The Nicholas has a concealment rating of 92. It's impossible to see this little bugger when it's firing its 5-inch guns at you. The Atlanta, on the other hand, as a Tier 7 cruiser, has a concealment rating of 65, which is pretty good for a cruiser, but it still gets spotted on the surface from a distance of 11 kilometers, and the 6-inch destroyer armament guns on the Atlanta have a range of 11.1 kilometers, and therein lies the problem. Now, this isn't quite the same disaster zone as the USS Albany, the Tier 2 premium American cruiser, because the Atlanta is quick and it's manoeuvrable. And once it gets in range of its target, it's got 16 of these 5-inch guns, and they are pretty good for what they are. Now, while you can't realistically point more than 14 of these guns at any one target at the same time, that's still 14 guns, and that means this thing fires 168 shots per minute. What's more, the guns only take 7.2 seconds to turn 180 degrees, so what that means in practice is it does not matter how violent the manoeuvres you are pulling in this ship to avoid return fire. The guns always stay pointing at the target, and they keep firing. My personal record in the Atlanta is 362 hits on target during the course of one game. Don't let the range of these guns fool you. These guns are incredible. And let's not forget that these 16 5-inch guns fire armor-piercing, high-explosive and anti-aircraft ammunition. That's right, these are also the Atlanta's primary anti-aircraft battery, as well as 8 20mm Ehrlichen self-defense anti-aircraft guns and 4 quad-barreled 28mm anti-aircraft guns. So let's fire up the boilers, take this thing out for a spin, and show you exactly what this Tier 7 premium American cruiser is capable of. This first match is actually quite old. It was well before patch 0.3.1, so you'll see me using a hell of a lot more armor-piercing ammunition in this game than I would now in the Atlanta, but we've got some much more recent games to show you as well. This is actually the very first game that I played in the Atlanta. As you can see, it's a cooperative battle rather than a random battle, so it's players against the AI rather than players against players. I had just unlocked the ship, or rather I just bought the ship. It was stupid o'clock in the morning, there was hardly anybody on in the random battle queue, so anxious to have a go and see what the thing could do, I tried my luck in the co-op battle queue, and sure enough there were a whole bunch of people sitting there waiting for a game. So this is my first ever game in the Atlanta. So, steaming around looking for my first victim, and pretty soon one comes into range, and luckily it's a Japanese cruiser, and his guns have more or less the same range as mine, except I've got an awful lot more of them. I do fully admit that my initial salvos at this target were pretty terrible. It was the first time I'd fired the guns in anger. It took me a while to get the hang of the fall of shot, but just look at the rate of fire. At maximum range, the first shots are still in the air when the guns have reloaded and the second salvo is leaving the barrels. The rate of fire is nothing short of spectacular. And don't get too excited when you see citadel penetrations and you're firing armor piercing from this gun, or these guns. They are just 5-inch guns, they're destroyer armament, and the maximum armor piercing shell damage if you score a citadel penetration is 2,100. But still, you fire a lot of them, and it's very much a case of toss enough crap at the wall and some of it's going to stick, and this guy is just doomed. I'm obviously not the only one firing at him, and he is not going to survive this. He did manage to get his torpedoes away, however, and now I'm looking for my second victim. None of those guys are in range, but I am in range of some of them, so it's destroyer tactics basically. Use whatever concealment is available to shield yourself from return fire, use the islands, get close to the enemy by whatever means are possible, and that's pretty much exactly what I'm going to do here. Full speed of the engines, and let's get around this island and through the narrows up there and see if I can find my second victim. So we're going to skip ahead. And so, by staying close to the land masses and using that top speed of 33 knots, it doesn't take long before I'm able to put myself into a position where I'm immediately going to be able to start broadsiding whatever this cruiser is the second I clear this landmass. And I don't know what it is yet, but he's got a hell of a rate of fire, whatever he's shooting at. And it turns out it's actually the enemy Atlanta, so should be a reasonably fair fight, he said. And then a salvo came in from somebody else, so okay, it's 2-on-1, it's not a fair fight at all. I do actually screw this up. Can you guess what's going to happen? Bit of tunnel vision here. He starts shooting at me, so okay, but I do have the advantage because he's got very little health left from my first couple of salvos. There's a citadel penetration, I've knocked out one of his gun turrets, I'm broadsiding him, he's turning to avoid my torpedoes, which means he can only fire his forward batteries at me, and that's when I run the ship aground. Oh, Jingles, you noob. But I get away with it, because we blow him out of the water before he can bring any real effective firepower to bear on me. So, if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. Got away with that one, lost some health, but I'm still floating, I'm still fighting, and as soon as I get myself off this island, we're going to get back into the fight. So I finally get off the rocks, and there's an enemy battleship, and he's actually already inside my gun range, before he is able to start shooting at me. You don't get many opportunities like this when you're in the Atlanta, so take advantage of them whenever you can. I'm waiting for him to come around the side of that island. I know he's more or less there, put some shots out, there he is. And it's a big old Japanese battleship. It is in fact a Fuso. Now that guy has, I can't remember how many. He's got 14-inch guns, and I think he's got 12 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, he's got 6 turrets. 4 of them are pointed at me, so this got a bit emotional. He's knocked out one of my gun turrets. Now, that is quite a common problem with the Atlanta. The gun turrets are very vulnerable, and they do get knocked out a lot. But you've got 16 of them, so it's not like you're in, for example, the Izumo, the Japanese Tier 9 battleship, which only has 3 gun turrets. If you lose one of those, you've just lost a third of your firepower. It's nowhere near as critical when you're in the Atlanta if you do lose a turret, and you are going to lose turrets when you're driving this ship. Now, things get very, very dangerous for me here, and here it is. I've already used my repair ability, and that's when this guy hits me, sets me on fire, and knocks my engine out. So my speed is bleeding to a crawl, and he's close enough for me to fire torpedoes. But, oh, thank you, Island. Thank you, Island. Thank you for being there. And I'm desperately struggling to try and turn this ship around so I can bring my torpedo launchers to bear on him. He's still got a lot of health. I don't, and I can't extinguish this fire yet. I've still got 30 seconds to go before my damage control ability comes off cooldown. Luckily, I'm not alone. There are some torpedoes going in. There's a friendly ship over there to the right-hand side. Come on, torpedo. It's not going to happen, is it? I'm not going to get these torpedo tubes pointed at him. I'm going to have to switch back to the guns. Oh well. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever. And he's turned his guns towards the cruiser up ahead of me, which means, well, I'm not completely out of the woods yet. I still have to worry about his secondary batteries, and he's got a lot of them, and they're all the same caliber as my main batteries. Now, I did delay using my damage control ability here because my crew have just put the fire out. However, even though my engine is still immobilised, I didn't want to use my damage repair ability and then have his secondaries set me on fire again. But I decided it was worth the risk because we need to put this guy down, and I'm going to need my torpedoes for that. He's just knocked out another one of my gun turrets. I've lost 3 of them now. So I repair the engines. He turns away from those torpedoes, which means he's turning directly into the torpedoes that I've just launched. And he is not going to survive that. Bingo. There goes the Fuso class battleship. I was quite lucky to survive that. If there hadn't been a friendly cruiser with me, I almost certainly wouldn't. But there was, so he died, and I didn't. So, for those of you keeping track of the scores, at this point that's 213 5-inch gun hits and 2 torpedo strikes. But this is the Atlanta. We're just getting warmed up. Now, on the far side of that island up ahead, there are 2 further enemy ships, and because they were on the far side of the island, I was able to get within gun range of them, so the second they are able to start shooting at me, once again, I am also able to start shooting at them, and I've got a hell of a lot more guns than they have. So I'm pumping broadsides into this Japanese light cruiser, the hits are mounting up. Citadel penetration, again, let's not get too excited, it is only 2,100 damage, unless you detonate his magazine, which is an instant kill, and then the lucky bugger sets me on fire and knocks my steering out. Luckily, my damage control ability is off cooldown, so I'm able to immediately repair the damage. Now, I have taken a bit of a beating so far in this game. I do not have a lot of health left. Remember, the Atlanta only has 27,500 health maximum, but that guy is about to run aground as he tries to pull a turn the wrong way, and that's going to make him a sitting duck. Now at this range, before my first shots have even landed on him, my second set of shots are in the air. The rate of fire, and we've got him, but the rate of fire of this thing is just ridiculous. Now those guys aren't quite in range yet. There's still 3 ships left on the enemy team. I do not have a lot of health. The 3 enemy ships remaining are 2 Congo class battleships and 1 Langley class carrier. The Langley's still on full health, but he's just a carrier, so not too concerned about him. The 2 Congos, on the other hand, well, I have 8,000 health. One of the Congos has 28,000 health, and the other Congo has got nearly 16,000 health. And they have 14-inch guns. They can sink me in 1 hit. So I'm going to have to, once again, try to take advantage of as much terrain as possible to keep myself safe from fire as I close the range to bring my 5-inch guns to bear. But that Langley seems to be steaming straight towards me. It looks like he's manoeuvring to try to avoid the other cruiser, which is skirting around the island to the south, which is basically driving him straight towards me. The Congo behind him is opening fire on me, but he's only able to bring his forward batteries to bear at the moment, so I'm maximising the firepower that I can bring by turning, which is also helping me avoid the fire from the Congo to the rear, so I can get all of my gun batteries to bear on this Langley. I am now, of course, firing high explosive. I want to set this guy on fire so he can't launch any aircraft that he manages to recover. There we go, set him on fire. 33,000 health, and ooh, there goes a friendly... Oh, there's got to be torpedoes in the water. There is. Yeah, this guy's doomed. He is not going to survive that. The Langley is just too slow to avoid torpedoes. But I've set him on fire from stem to stern, and I've turned in to take advantage of the concealment that this small island is providing me from the guns of those two Congos. Well, actually, only one of the Congos, because the first Congo, the one who was further over to the right, is actually behind the island, right over there on the other side of the map. He's coming around behind the other enemy Congo. So, if I play this right, I should be able to engage them one at a time. Any second now, I'm going to get a small window of opportunity where I'm actually in the clear, that guy is in range, and I can start putting some long-range armor-piercing shots into that Congo. Meanwhile, he is going to be fully occupied by that friendly cruiser up ahead, who just torpedoed the Langley, and has now swung the ship around. So, there it goes, there go the torpedoes from the other side of the cruiser, straight into that Congo. Let's hope they hit. Managed to get another salvo off, and now my target's occluded. Island's in the way. Full speed, 33 knots, get around the other side, and if there's anything left of that Congo once the torpedoes have done their work, and hopefully that cruiser up ahead is going to survive, because he is very close to the Congo. He might even be inside his secondary battery range, but the Congo's taking his time finishing him off. No, he's got him. The Congo did finish him off. Are those torpedoes going to hit? It doesn't look like it. Nope, they've all missed, so it's down to me. Now he's outside of torpedo range, but he is very, very much inside gun range. So here we go, 5-inch gun batteries. Time to start earning your pay. His guns are going to be pointing in my direction, but he's just fired and killed a friendly cruiser. So I've probably got 20 seconds before I can expect some return fire. And I need to make the most... Oh, actually, no. Here it comes. Please don't hit. Please don't hit. Please don't hit. Maneuver, maneuver, maneuver. He didn't hit. That's good. Okay, so now I have a bit of a window of opportunity to put the firepower of the Atlanta to work while he reloads his 14-inch guns. And individually, these guns don't do a massive amount of damage, even if I score a Citadel penetration. Remember, it's only 2,100 maximum armor-piercing damage, but it's never just one. 16 of these guns, even if you can only bring 14 at the most of them to bear at the same time. It's just such a concentrated, withering array of firepower. There we go, we've got him. And I was wondering what my anti-aircraft guns were doing, but it's just his spotter aircraft. Oh well, anyway. And there's the final enemy Congo, and he's also in range. And he's never going to be out of range, because while the Congo can do 31 knots, it's one of the faster of the Japanese battleships, I can do 33, so I can keep pace with him. And that's really the trick with the Atlanta. It's kind of like driving a destroyer. When your cover's been blown, you've been spotted, and everybody knows where you are. You have to strike a balancing act between getting close enough that you can use your guns while keeping the range far enough that when they start shooting back at you, you've got time to take evasive maneuvers. It is very much like driving a big, very, very well-armed battleship. Sorry, a very big, very well-armed destroyer. And if you drive it in that way, you'll probably do very well. And I really left it just a little, there I am. Yeah, it's just like driving a destroyer, and then didn't take evasive maneuvers when the Congo fired at me. And he knocked out my engine and destroyed a gun battery. But damage control ability is off cooldown, so I use it, immediately get the engine back up. I'm hoping that he's going to turn his attention to this friendly battleship in front of me. He is the closer target after all. Come on, shoot at somebody other than me for a change. But no, here it comes. It's like a dog with his teeth into a bone. And then he knocks my bloody engine out again. He's just not playing fair now, is he? But he's fired, and he's on perilously low health. I've got almost all of my gun batteries still firing. Come on, just go down, will you? I mean, give me a break. Come on, team. Help me kill this guy. I don't want to die. I've got 4 kills. Can I get 5 kills, or is this battleship going to get him? Yeah, 5 kills. Fantastic. That was my first ever game in the Atlanta. Now, obviously, because it was a cooperative battle rather than a random battle, you do not get the same amount of credits or experience as I would have if I was playing against, other players. But still, top of the team on XP and credits earned. Which is not surprising. I was a top-tier ship, after all, in a co-op battle. But how much damage did I do? Remember, these are only 5-inch guns. Maximum of 2,100 armor-piercing damage. Yep, over 100,000 damage. That's not bad at all. 362 target hits with the 5-inch guns. That's just what this thing does. But, you know, good against remotes is one thing, said Han Solo. Good against the living? That's a different matter. How does the Atlanta stack up against live opponents? This is the very first game that I played in the Atlanta when patch 0.3.1 came out, and again in this match you're going to see me firing a lot more armor piercing than I do these days, because at this point I still wasn't fully conversant with the new armor mechanics, namely the fact that armor actually works in patch 0.3.1. But the first thing that we're going to demonstrate in this particular replay is the Atlanta's ability as an anti-aircraft escort, and that's exactly why I'm shadowing that battleship. I'm putting myself between him and these dive bombers and torpedo bombers, and that's a lot of dive bombers and torpedo bombers. But I'm not the only cruiser here. So that is one well-protected battleship. Now, some of them are going to get through, but I've triggered my defensive fire ability. Now, this is something that you get on cruisers with dual-purpose armament, typically tier 6 and above. It not only boosts the firepower of your anti-aircraft guns, but it also, I believe the term that they use is, it rattles the pilots of the aircraft. So the bombs from the dive bombers have a wider spread, less of them are going to hit the target. The torpedoes from the torpedo bombers also have a wider spread, which makes it easier to avoid the torpedoes. That's something that you get on all cruisers that have a dual-purpose armament, typically tier 6 and up, and obviously the Atlanta is tier 7, so it also has it, and it's a very, very powerful ability if you use it at the right time. We've managed to shoot down 6 of those aircraft, whatever they were, dive bombers, torpedo bombers, I wasn't really keeping track. So I've done my good guy Jingles thing. I've looked after the battleship at the start of the match and protected him from the initial onslaught from the enemy aircraft carrier. Now, however, well, this is one of the new maps. There's one single flag capture point right in the centre of the map. The teams start from all 4 corners, and I've won games on this map before in my destroyers by just driving straight into the cap and sitting there being ignored. And they've been terrible, terrible victories, but destroyers will do it if you let them get away with it. And I'm not going to let this little bugger get away with it for much longer either. It is my firm opinion that there is not a better ship in World of Warships when it comes to hunting down and killing destroyers. If I'm in a destroyer and I see an Atlanta on the enemy team, I shit bricks. This thing, well, just watch this. I barely even have to aim. It's just high explosive spam, and you don't salvo your 5-inch guns when you're shooting at a destroyer. You spread the shots around. You quite literally saturate the area with high explosive shells. What you're looking to do is knock out his engine, and he's a destroyer, it's easy to do. Destroyers have even worse armour than the Atlanta does. If you're in a destroyer and you're coming under fire from an Atlanta and you can't break line of sight, you've got very few options, and the best one is usually to run away. Hang on a minute, who's that shooting at me? Oh, it's another one of the little buggers. Doesn't matter. Minimal damage, and I'm about to break line of sight as I pass through the narrows here. I'm going to continue chasing this guy down and focus him down. It's almost too easy killing destroyers when you're in one of these things. Spam high explosive all over. Some of it is going to hit. There we go, he's already been hit. He's had his engine knocked out. He's just used the repair ability. He's turning in towards me. Even if he were to launch torpedoes, which is obviously what he's trying to do, I'm in an Atlanta. I can dodge his torpedoes. There he goes, cap defended. And there's another one. I'm in range of his guns, but he's in range of my guns. And, say it with me, I've got a lot more of them. There's another one up there, I see the smoke screen, but I'm going to focus on this guy for the moment. And the tactics are the same. You don't salvo your shots, not unless you're guaranteed that you're at such close range they're all going to hit. You just hose the area down with high explosive fire. There you go. More hits, more crits, knocked out gun turrets. He's in there somewhere. There he is. He keeps popping up. He's launched torpedoes. I've got a rough idea. Oh, he's been taken out. Bingo. There goes another one. So, it's almost too easy, isn't it? But that is what the Atlanta does better than any other ship I have ever played. Makes the lives of destroyer captains an absolute misery. It is absolutely fantastic at it. Now then, what we got here? That looks like Pensacola. Okay. That's the other Tier 7 American cruiser. He has 203mm guns, and he's not alone. However, the Pensacola is the first American cruiser to get the 203mm guns, so they're not particularly good on the Pensacola. They're not bad, but it doesn't get many of them, and the rate of fire isn't amazing. The turrets don't turn particularly well, and I have 16 5-inch guns that fire 12 shots per minute for 168 shots per minute, even if I can only bring 14 of them to bear on a target at once, and I'm bringing 14 of them to bear on this guy. And I'm dodging the return fire from, is that an Omaha? I think it's an Omaha. And is that guy going to run aground? I think that guy's running aground. Oh, well, if he's just going to make it easy, then why the hell not? What's that on the other side? Is that a battleship? I don't know, and I don't really care. I'm just having fun. Oh, I've been set on fire. No problem. Put the fire out. And it's at this point when disaster strikes. Right after I score a citadel penetration on that Pensacola, as he's trying to reverse, I get set on fire, I lose a gun turret. You're always losing gun turrets in the Atlanta, it's not a big deal, and that's when my steering gets jammed. And I've used my damage control ability, so I'm stuck burning with my steering jammed, sailing around in circles, and you know what? It's not a problem. And it's not a problem because these turrets only take 7.2 seconds to rotate 180 degrees, so despite the fact that I am pulling as tight a turn as I possibly can, I can still get these guns firing at that Omaha. And I'm pulling a tight circle, which means I'm more difficult for that guy to hit me. There we go. Torpedoes in the water. Oh, damn it, he ran aground. I wanted my torpedoes to kill him. I'll have to satisfy myself with pummeling him with gunfire instead. There we go. I'm firing armor piercing, of course. I should probably really be firing high explosive, but it doesn't matter. I got him. I love this ship. Oh, it's a battleship. Oh, great. Well, I'm probably not going to survive this, but what the hell. It was a fun match anyway. We won that match, as you can... Well, it's not going to come as a great surprise when you look at how many ships are left at the top of the screen, but I was the third ship on my team to die. Despite that, let's have a look at the results. This was, of course, the day 0.3.1 came out, so it's ×5 experience for the first win of the day. That's why I got 10,000 experience out of that one. But remember, I was the third ship on the team to die, and despite that, I came within a hair of being the top experience earner on my team in that match. How much damage did I do? Well, let's take a look. And there you go, 50,000 damage, and almost all of that with armor piercing, firing at the Pensacola and the Omaha. So, the USS Atlanta, it's all fun and games. And then you get the ocean map. And yeah. You see, the trick to using the Atlanta successfully is to bully the crap out of destroyers, and if you have to engage anything else, you use concealment, you use the terrain, you use islands, you use land features to mask your approach so you can get close enough to put your 5-inch guns to work, because they only have a range of 11 kilometers and 100 meters. There's nowhere to hide on the ocean map. The enemy destroyers will rush forward, they will spot you from a range of 11 kilometers if the enemy aircraft haven't already done it. They will light you up for the battleships, who will start shooting at you as soon as they have a range of 21 kilometers or less if they're Japanese, at which point you have got 10 kilometers of open ocean to cross before you can start bringing your guns to bear, and the Atlanta does not have a lot of health, and it has no armor whatsoever. This map is a real challenge when you're in this ship. I really don't have fun with this ship when I'm on this map for all the reasons that I've stated, so what I'm going to do here is hand you over to Mari Aquila, who sent this replay in, as he's going to put the Atlanta through its paces on the ocean map. Wish him luck, he's going to need it. Rule number 1, patience. It takes Aquila more than 5 minutes to get in a position where he's actually first able to start shooting at an enemy target. It's the ocean map, you know what it's like. The battleships all skulk around the map borders, refusing to move forward. If you don't move forward with support on this map when you're in the Atlanta, you will die very, very quickly. That is, I believe, the Japanese Tier 6 cruiser, the Aoba. His first salvo that he fires, the Aoba is not actually within range, but the Aoba is steaming towards him at full speed, so there's a decent chance that those shots will actually arrive on target by the time the Aoba gets there. But now he's in range, and he's starting to unload his 5-inch guns onto him. The Aoba switches target from the battleship to Aquila. He knocks out one of his gun batteries. This happens all the time when you're in the Atlanta. He continues to put harassing fire into this Aoba, but turns around and starts to open the distance on him, drawing him into the guns of, well, The Fuso that he passed on the way in might have pussied out and run away to the back of the map because there's a nasty Japanese Tier 6 cruiser shooting at him, but there's a pair of New Mexicos here who actually have a pair of balls between them, and they've moved up and they've started engaging the Auber. The Auber's now out of options. He can't run away, he's quick, but he's not quick enough to get out of the range of these two battleships and their guns, and he's still within the range of Mari Akila's 5-inch batteries. He turns, he starts turning, which probably means he's readying a torpedo attack on the battleship on the right. Mari Akila keeps up the gunfire. He knocks out his torpedo tubes, but it's just a little bit too late. There you go, torpedoes are in the water. The New Mexico on the right starts taking the days of action. He's also taking gunfire from, well, at least 2 different other sources. Mari Akila keeps up the support and fire. He knocks out the torpedo tubes on the other side of the Auber as he turned around to try to engage the second New Mexico with the torpedo strike, and that's it, he's done. Now it's time for Akila to start playing with the enemy destroyers. Now it's time to have some fun. I did notice that Akila does broadside this destroyer, and that's fine if you can guarantee that you're going to hit him, but until he's definitely sure he's got the range, I just find it... Well, there we go. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. And there's another destroyer out there, and he does keep hitting this guy, so I should probably keep my mouth shut. He's knocked his engine out, and bingo. Well, he didn't get the kill, but he was basically the one who killed him. Knocked his engines out, made him a sitting duck. Oh, he took a big hit. Well, it wasn't that big a hit, actually, but he took some damage. Oh, there's another cruiser out there, well, almost in gun range. It looks like a Pensacola. Yeah, he's in range now. More turrets swing around, bear on the target. Remember, these turrets only take 7.2 seconds to turn all the way around, and he's just lost another turret. So, okay, now he's down to, if my mathematics serves me correct, 12 5-inch gun batteries, but he's found the range of another destroyer, and... Come on. Oh, he's done it. He's set him on fire, and, well, he didn't get the kill, but he did some damage. Now, 2 battleships. That looks like, is that a New York or a New Mexico? I'm not entirely sure, but it is American. And there's another one over there. He is not quite in range, but that guy is. What he starts doing now, because he's obviously coming under fire from a whole bunch of different ships here, he's actually spreading his fire between multiple targets at the same time. And you really can't do this in any other kind of ship in World of Warships other than maybe American destroyers, because they also have very fast turning turrets, but you can totally do it in the Atlanta. And of course he's firing high explosive, and he's firing lots and lots and lots of high explosive shells, so he's doing all kinds of critical damage to these ships, and it's real harassing fire. He's knocking out turrets, he's causing them all kinds of problems. He's setting them on fire, he's destroying their guns, he's really pissing them off. And that's what the Atlanta does. Of course, you do need, especially on this map, if you're in the Atlanta, you do need the rest of your team to actually move forward and give the enemy something else to shoot at other than you. And it's to the credit of Mari Akila's team here that his team's battleships, except for that Fuso who pussied out and ran away to the back of the map when the nasty Tier 6 cruiser was shooting at him, but the rest of the battleships on his team have actually moved up and started engaging these enemy ships, which is giving the cruisers on their team the opportunity to move forward and actually do what cruisers do. All too often, I hate it when I see it on this map, and it's this map in particular, particularly when you've got Japanese battleships on your team. They think, oh, I can shoot at targets from 20 kilometers away. Yeah, you can't really hit targets from 20 kilometers away. Not the way most of you shoot. But that's what they do. They all hide at the back of the map, and the cruisers have to move forward unsupported, and they get slaughtered by the enemy battleships and ambushed by the enemy destroyers, and it's it's tragic. Well, Mari Akila's team did not do that in this match, and that is why he is able to be as effective as he is in his Atlanta in this match on the ocean map. I mean, look at this. That's a Wyoming. It's a Tier 4 battleship in a Tier 7 match, and he's right up there mixing it up with an enemy New York, and he's actually not coming off worse. The New York is just undergoing withering firepower from at least 3 ships, including Mari Akila's Atlanta, who has now switched to armor piercing. Come on, Mari Akila. You deserve a kill. I mean, he's put shots into multiple different enemy ships, and he hasn't actually been rewarded with a kill yet. Come on, let's see him get a kill. I do feel he deserves it. Can he get this New York? Shots are going in. Shots are going in. Come on. Come on. Come on, my son. Do it for the Wyoming. Save the Wyoming. Don't let him go down. He's gone up there. He's engaged the enemy battleships at point-blank range. There we go. We got a kill. Finally. Oh, and that's actually a Fuso. It's not a Nagato. Never mind. Well, it wouldn't be the first time I got a ship wrong, or a tank wrong, or an aircraft wrong, or, well, you know. You don't come to my channel for accurate reporting. If you think that's what you're going to get when you're watching one of my videos, you must be new here. Fuso there, trying to sneak around the side of the map. It didn't work out too well for him, did it? Now there's only 2 ships left on the enemy team. He's one of them. Moriakila set him on fire. These guns just keep firing. I'm not entirely sure who the Fuso is shooting at, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be Moriakila, and of course he's now got almost the undivided attention of Moriakila's full team. Need to be careful when you don't want to get too close to a Fuso, because the secondary batteries on that thing, well, what secondary batteries it has left alive, because Aquila is knocking them out just about every time he fires his guns. But they do have quite a nasty range, and he's set him on fire again, so he's now burning in 2 separate places, and bingo, he's just done enough damage to that Fuso to earn himself the Confederate Award. The Confederate Award in World of Warships is a lot harder to get than the Confederate Award in World of Tanks. Oh, the Fuso's shooting at him. Okay, that's not good. Well, the Fuso's fired now, so he's got a good 20 to 30 seconds before the Fuso can fire again. And he set him on fire again. Anyway, yes, the Confederate Award in World of Warships. In World of Tanks, it's not easy to get, but it's easier because you just have to hit a certain number of enemy tanks. In World of Warships, you don't just have to hit enemy ships, you have to do at least 20% of that ship's full health in damage to them. So getting the Confederate Award in World of Warships is a hell of a lot bigger an achievement than it is in World of Tanks. And Moriakila, oh, bit of a video glitch there, sorry about that. Moriakila has just earned himself the Confederate Award on the ocean map in the Atlanta. That is not bad going at all. Is that Fuso going down? Well, he is. It's just there we go, he's gone. Now there's only 1 ship left on the enemy team. It's a Miyoko class cruiser. It's the Japanese Tier 7 cruiser. A very, very good ship. I absolutely love mine. And this is a bit of a heartbreak match for that guy in the Miyoko. Watch this situation here. Look at how much health he's got. That guy has got 2 kills. He's only got 16,000 health left. He's just come under attack from multiple squadrons of torpedo and dive bombers, and he's facing off against a Fuso who has almost 52,000 health. I'm just going to skip to the end here because Moriakila's just a spectator here. He's never going to get within range of that Miyoko and be able to shoot at him before this match is over. But remember, Miyoko, 16,000 health. Fuso, 52,000 health. A couple of minutes later, do you see the health differences now? Look at the Fuso over there. Right over there at the far right-hand side of the screen. The carriers... bombers have actually gone back, refueled, come back, and had another go at him, and that guy is still hanging on. And I think he actually did more than 52,000 damage to that Fuso. The Fuso actually only survived because he used his damage repair ability. Look at this. The Fuso is barely alive. He would have been dead if he hadn't been able to repair some of the damage before the Miyoko finally goes down. Well played to that Miyoko captain. So, Moriakila in what is easily the worst map in World of Warships for the Atlanta class cruiser, and he goes and gets himself a Confederate Award on it. Which, you know, just goes to prove anything's possible if you're good enough. I do know, even though I don't know how much damage he caused in that game because he didn't send me that screenshot, but I do know that he doesn't run a premium account, and that was a base 1822 experience result. If he'd been running a premium account, he would have earned well over 300,000 credits out of that game. Incidentally, while you did see my record game in the Atlanta where I scored 362 hits on enemy ships during the course of the match, that is not the largest number of hits that I have seen somebody score in this ship. I must apologise in advance. I cannot remember the name of the person who sent this screenshot in, but just, well, take a look at this. Look at that. 852 shots fired. Over 100,000 damage done with armor-piercing shells. 416 targets hit. Unbelievable. I appreciate that this ship is not going to be for everybody. Some people just like the ships that have got the long-range guns, and that's absolutely fine. But I suspect there are probably a lot of American destroyer captains who are watching this video and thinking, I have got to get me one of those. And I certainly don't regret getting the Atlanta, not for a second. I think it is absolutely fantastic. Don't forget, if you do decide to buy enough gold to get yourself an Atlanta in World of Warships when the game goes into open beta test, the Atlanta will be wiped. However, you will be refunded all of the gold that you have spent on in-game purchases in World of Warship while the game was in closed beta. You won't actually lose any money on the deal. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, folks. I certainly had a lot of fun putting it together, and I hope you've been entertained by today's battles. As always, take care, and I will catch you next time.